Hey everybody, I'm ZombieJohnny. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my very first shoujo manga. This is Absolute Boyfriend. And once again, much like my other reviews, this one's going to be a cover-to-cover complete review, so some spoilers ahead.
Absolute Boyfriend is written and illustrated by Yuu Watase, who is the famed creator of Fushigi Yugi. Born in 1970 in Kishiwada, Osaka, Japan, Yuu Watase debuted on the manga scene in 1989. She has since published more than 50 one-shot manga and long-running series. Absolute Boyfriend had an original run from March of 2003 to February of 2005 and was published by Shojo Beat in North America. For those of you who don't know the term shoujo manga, it means manga that is targeted towards young adult women. The story begins with a very clumsy girl in a huge panic. She runs to her balcony to get her laundry off the line. One of her bras blows off and lands on her neighbor. Her neighbor is named Soshi. Soshi hands her bra back to her only to have the girl bop him over the head and call him a pervert. The girl, who is named Rieko, walks up to a young man and confesses that she likes him. Rieko is shot down immediately and is questioned as to why she is walking around with her bra in her hand. This is our main calamity of a character, folks. She ends up meeting a young man named Gaku from the Chronos Heaven Corporation. He sells many different types of things that don't interest Rieko, but in the end he mentions that he sells boyfriends. This piques her interest. She logs onto the website and orders herself the Nightly 01 model. She adds all the features she wants and then hits the purchase button. The next day, a giant package arrives on Rieko's doorstep. It came from the Chronos Corporation. She's shocked because she only ordered her boyfriend last night. She signs the papers, gets the box inside, and opens it up. Then, plop! A naked man falls out of the box and onto Rieko. The naked man lays lifeless on her floor. Rieko, in a shock, phones Gaku and asks why her boyfriend is dead. Gaku asks if she's read the instruction manual to activate him. Rieko reads the instructions and finds out she has to kiss him to activate him. Rieko nervously leans in and kisses the lifeless lips of the naked man on her floor. He twitches and then sits up and simply says, "A pleasure to meet you, girlfriend." A lot happens in this volume, and I mean a lot. So I'll just go over some of the main points quickly. It is established that her boyfriend is a robot. Rieko names her robot boyfriend Knight. Rieko has to cover up that Knight is a robot and has to blend him into her daily life to not draw attention to him. As it turns out, Knight is fully dedicated to Rieko and will protect her at all costs. Gaku says that Rieko has to start paying for Knight and the total cost is $1 million. Gaku equips Knight with a data collecting ring so that he can study human emotions and make the perfect robot boyfriend. Rieko and Knight get a job at a lolicon cafe to pay for Knight's bill and are fired within minutes. You find out that Soshi loves Rieko, and this creates a bizarre love triangle. Knight enlists at Rieko's school and then kicks the crap out of some guy who's making fun of her, and done. Yeah, I wasn't joking. A lot happens in Volume 1. Anyway, let's move on. Volume 2. With Knight enrolling in Rieko's school, this causes a strain and jealousy between all of the other girls in her school. Rieko, a girl who has never had a boyfriend, all of a sudden has a super hot guy absolutely fawning over every move she makes? Yeah, seems odd. So the other girls in her school decide to make a Knight fan club and keep anyone away from getting near him. Mika, who is apparently Rieko's best friend, is the leader of the fan club. There is a school camping trip planned, so this is when things get a little heated. As it turns out, Mika is a two-faced little hussy who has always went after the guys that Rieko was interested in. And Mika is now doing the same thing with Knight. Mika reveals her plans to Rieko, and then the fan club ends up beating up Rieko. So she comes to the rescue with Knight close behind. After the camping trip, Rieko ends up confronting Mika and smacks the shit out of her in front of everyone, forever sealing the deal that their friendship is over. A lot more happens in this volume again, so I'll go over it quickly. Rieko meets a girl named Miyabi who helps her with her finances. Knight and Soshi compete in school athletics, and it seems that Soshi is the only person that can keep up with the Robo-Boy. Rieko starts a new job at a Thai food restaurant, and what a coincidence that Soshi works there too. By the way, the manager of this restaurant is named Muyai, and he is my favorite character. While working at the restaurant, Soshi confesses his deep love for Rieko. Knight gets a job at an escort service where another woman ends up falling in love with him and kisses him. This means that Knight is now imprinted on this other woman. Of course, Rieko is devastated, and this is where the volume ends. Volume 3. In Volume 3, things get heated up between Riko, Night, and Soshi. Riko heads out to find Night's new woman's house so she can re-imprint herself on Night. Riko ends up being successful after almost plummeting to her death by falling off a balcony. She is saved by Night, of course. Riko and Night reclaim their love with a kiss. Gaku tells Riko that she has to do it with Night so that he will be forever hers, or he could run off with another woman again. Gaku comes up with this plan and kidnaps Riko and Soshi. He then takes Night, Riko, Soshi, and himself and plants them on a deserted island so that Riko will do it with Night and settle the score once and for all. But why did he kidnap Soshi? I have no idea, but I think it's some kind of torture. I don't know. All I can really tell you is that there's a lot of floundering back and forth with emotions in this volume, and they get off the island without Riko and Night doing it. So let's move on. Volume 4. Volume 4 opens with Riko and Night going through some old photo album and Riko seeing an old crush of hers. During an evening out, who do they run into? Her old crush, Toshiki. At this point, to be fully honest, if it was Night, Soshi, and Toshiki, I wouldn't be able to tell them apart. They look the same, especially Toshiki and Night. Anyway, Toshiki and his little brother Yuki are hanging out at the same fair that Riko and Night are. But guess what? Toshiki gets Riko alone and kisses her and totally throws a wrench in all of the gears. As the days go by, Toshiki becomes possessive and is really just like grooming Riko into his girlfriend. Ew. Toshiki really made me feel uncomfortable. He stalks Riko, he's manipulative, pressuring, creepy, he's gross. A true sexual deviant. Robot. Yep, you heard it. As it turns out, he's another love model robot sent to win over Riko's heart because Night was taking too long? I don't know. It's kind of a weird premise, but let's just go with it. The robo-lovers end up battling to the death while Soshi watches from the sidelines. Riko watches the battle as Night rips off Toshiki's arm. Then someone says a random sequence of numbers and Toshiki collapses on top of Night. And guess what again? Toshiki was sent by Gaku's boss, Yuki, who isn't Toshiki's little brother. He's actually controlling him. As it turns out, Night had been seriously injured in the epic battle, and Gaku comes to pick him up for repairs. Soshi then confronts Riko about the robot battle the night before, and obviously he is hurt that she has chosen two robo-lovers over himself, who has been there, always for her, and taken care of her. Come on, go for Soshi! Go for Soshi! Gaku and Night return to Riko's apartment. In another strange turn of events, Soshi decides to stay with Riko as Night is being repaired. Gaku has brought over the replacement Night in mini form. Yeah, he's the size of a tiny toy. But he's still there to make sure Riko is his girl. So, all three of them have decided to exist as one unit in the same apartment. Volume 5. So now we've got Night, who is the same size of a hamster, Soshi, who is quote-unquote staying at Riko's apartment to take care of her, and then there's Riko, who has put herself in this predicament. Riko takes Mini Night to school, who ends up causing a ruckus. Soshi takes him aside and scolds Night for being a nuisance. Miyabe, who we met way earlier, walks into the conversation, seeing Mini Night and is fascinated by him. Just then, Riko walks in and Night blows his cover. Riko explains that he's one of these mythical little people and she took him in to save him so that their people wouldn't go extinct. Thankfully, Miyabe buys this and asks to borrow him for the day. Night learns about Miyabe's past, and Riko gets a call from Gaku saying she needs to get Night back immediately. Riko storms out and Soshi follows her. They make it to the Miyabe residence and get captured by her grandfather, but in the end, retrieve Night and head home. Yuki and Gaku meet Riku and Soshi on the street and break the news that Night's regular body cannot be repaired. Yuki and Gaku take Mini Night and head back to their headquarters. The next day, Gaku shows up with a replacement Night, but this isn't good enough for Riko, so Gaku agrees to take them to see the real Night. They end up taking Gaku's car through an interdimensional portal to the future? Anyway, they see busted and broken Night and Riko decides to leave him behind and have Night reinitialized to another girl. They return back home to their daily lives, but lo and behold, who shows up at school? None other than Night. He's a little worse for wear, but he's alive. Night now suffers from incredibly high fevers whenever he touches a woman. And his escape did not go unnoticed by the headquarters, and they sent a robo-nurse after Night to bring him back. Then, in a wild turn of events, she captures Knight, almost kisses him to reinitialize him. Riko then attacks Robo-Nurse, and so she kisses her to make her fall in love with him. Then, the headquarters sends battle robots after him, but Knight takes them out in one shot. Then, this happens, and it actually made me laugh out loud. Muyai just shows up. None of the characters are shocked that he isn't human, but as it turns out, he is human, he was just out on delivery. They all return home, and it is finally revealed that Rieko has chosen Knight over Soshi. We all saw that coming. Back home and safe, everyone is beginning to go back to normal, but headquarters is pissed. So they send Knight's identical copy to come take him out. Fake Knight wallops the real Knight and then tries to take advantage of Rieko. Then, the real Knight comes back, but Fake Knight flees with Rieko in his arms. The real Knight is in hot pursuit and they end up battling over Rieko. The real Knight wins with words of encouragement from Soshi. Volume 6. Unbeknownst to headquarters, Gaku sneaks Knight and Rieko into the hotel he had reserved. And this is where it finally happens. Rieko and Knight get it on. Oh yeah! And somehow this miraculously heals Knight. Knight really seals the deal by giving Rieko and himself matching rings. After this, everyone continues on with their daily lives. Life continues for Rieko and Knight, but Soshi gets a phone call from his father who is abroad in Spain. Soshi and his brother decide to join him, so they have a going away party. Rieko passes out and Soshi leaves before she gets a chance to say goodbye. As the evening is winding down, Knight makes Soshi promise that he will always take care of Rieko. This kinda gives you a hint as to what is coming. Knight has become increasingly more and more tired. He seems to sleep all hours and is difficult to wake. One evening, Knight is laying on the couch and Rieko lets him have a nap. Rieko comes home from shopping, excitedly saying that Soshi sent a postcard. Rieko sees Gaku overnight, who is wrapped in plastic. Gaku explains that all robots like Knight have a lifespan. They don't last forever. Rieko desperately tries to kiss Knight over and over again to start him. Knight is gone. Months later, Rieko bumps into Gaku, who is now selling street food. He said he was done with the Kronos Corporation and quit. He also says he was keeping an eye on Rieko because Knight had asked him to. Gaku returns Knight's ring to Rieko, then someone approaches her. It's Soshi. He has returned from Spain to fulfill his promise to Knight and take care of Rieko. The story ends with an embrace and Rieko saying that Knight is her first love, her eternal boyfriend. The first volume had me hooked. This is my first venture into shoujo manga, and I know it isn't aimed for me, but wow. I was surprised as to how this series grabbed a hold of me. It actually is very humorous. I found myself chuckling out loud. By volume 2, I was fully invested. It has humor and drama in a perfect balance. The artwork isn't really anything to phone home about. The illustrations are great, but there isn't much for paneling or backgrounds. It's pretty much just character illustrations with basic details. The character designs are fairly simplistic and actually fairly small on the page. There isn't dense illustrations with tons of details. It's pretty much just simple lines with hardly any details, and most of the time it's just stark white backgrounds. This is really just a strategy to make you focus on the words and the characters. It really allows you to blast through the series at lightning speed. Back on the topic of characters, I thought Yuu Watase was a part of Clamp. I always thought that Fushigi Yugi was a Clamp production. I don't know what it is, but Yuu Watase has an incredibly similar style to Clamp and it really threw me off. I have to defend myself by doing this side-by-side comparison. Absolute Boyfriend was adapted into 3 different live-action series, including a Japanese live-action series in 2008 titled Zeta Kareshi Kanzen Muketsu no Koibito Roboto, or Absolute Boyfriend Completely Flawless Robo-Lover. It was adapted into a Taiwanese live-action adaptation called Jue Dui Darling, or Absolute Darling, and a Korean live-action adaptation called Joldegui, or My Absolute Boyfriend. I will not be watching any of these, but hey, now we all know they exist. Throughout the series, Watase has blocks of text that talk about her process in creating this manga and daily life. kind of like a blog post on the side of the page. Most of them I just glossed over. The version that I had purchased was the first printing of the volumes 1 through 6. This collection I had purchased on eBay for around $40 Canadian, so overall a really great price for what I received. You can tell that these editions are the first printing because they are a touch weathered. They have some serious page yellowing, and though they aren't in rough shape, you can tell that they have been read more than a few times. Surprisingly enough though, the spines aren't broken and there are just some minor scratches and dents on the covers. Other than that, they are in fantastic shape for almost being 20 years old. Overall, Absolute Boyfriend is a nice little manga series. For as far as I can tell, they're still available on Amazon. And just like I said, I found one on eBay for a decent price. I think that if you're into shoujo manga, this is something that you should look into. I myself, not aimed for the demographic, actually really enjoyed the series. Total volumes, 6. Total page count, 1,192. Total score, 3 out of 5.
Thank you once again for watching, everybody. Things in my community have been a little bit tense lately. There is some wildfires burning outside of the community, and some surrounding communities have been evacuated. So things are a little bit tense and a little bit stressful right now. As far as I know, everyone got out safely, and the fires are burning, and they're staying outside of the community at this point. And I really do hope it stays that way. We do have some rain coming, and hopefully that will help things. But yeah, and everyone is safe for right now. And like I said, I hope things stay that way. Hope everyone out there is staying happy, healthy, and safe. If you liked the video, please hit like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And make sure you comment. We have a great little community here. I'm hoping everyone's staying happy, healthy, and safe once again. I'm ZombieJohnny. Peace.